You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carat Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Thursday, October 12th. And if your team is not 5-0, don't talk to us. You can't sit with us. And us is me and Rob back for another Steph and Stat show. Rob, how you doing today, man?
How could you be doing anything less than phenomenal right now? The 49ers are 5-0. Food tastes better. The sun shines brighter. It is good to be a 49ers fan right now.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And we were both at the game on Sunday. It was your first NFL game experience. I know that we had talked about it, like off live and whatnot. You had a great time. We met each other for the first time. And it was awesome to meet Rob. He's a lot taller in person than I thought he'd be. So that's me looking very short, but I am short. So I guess it's accurate representation of us.
That was the best part of the game for me. One, that we were able to actually find each other, which was sort of a minor miracle. No, it was. I mean, you've been doing shows for me for a long time. And it's nice to actually be in the same room and just say thank you for everything. And that was definitely the best part for me. Levi's is awesome. It totally blew me away, the whole experience. And I didn't even have any trouble getting out of there, which I had heard was crazy. Now, granted,
that's good.
I left when Sam Darnold made his appearance because I just refused to watch him for any amount of time. But I wasn't the only one leaving the stadium. A lot of people were leaving at that time, but I was able to get right out of there.
I also left early just because of the traffic thing. And by then, the 49ers were up a pretty decent amount. I think they had already won by that point. So, yeah, it was a great time. I can't wait to see you at another one. I'm sure that won't be your last 49ers game. You were telling me now you just got to go back. You can't just live just watching from the couch anymore. You got to get that game day experience, especially for playoffs. We got to see you out there for one of those, Rob, just saying. But as always, the way we start this show is we take a trip down memory lane as well. This week in 49ers history, Rob, October 10th, 2010. It was 10-10-10. Candlestick Park. The 0-4 49ers played a Sunday night game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And in the fourth quarter, with the 49ers losing 10-24, after an abysmal drive from Alex Smith, the crowd starts chanting, "We want Carr." Rob, you remembered right away. Were you scarred from that game at all?
I was chanting with them. I was right there. I have seen enough Alex Smith. And the crazy part about that is after that chant started, the 49ers started to come back in the game and Alex Smith started to play a little bit better. Now, ultimately, I believe they didn't win that game. But no, I was chanting right with them. Because I just remember thinking, because don't forget, Alex Smith was drafted in 2005, right? So we had seen half a decade. And I'm like, we don't have to have this guy at quarterback, right? It doesn't have to be this. We can have somebody else. We don't have to live like this anymore. And it's very similar to the frustration I felt with Jimmy Garoppolo more recently. So, yeah, I was right there chanting with them. We want Carr.
I don't really frequent Facebook anymore, but once in a while I will go back and I watch some of my memories. You could see what you posted in previous years on that same day. And I can't tell you how many Facebook statuses I've posted about the 49ers and just some very sad ones, one of them being put in Carr, so I was also on the same boat cheering on with them. And in hindsight, after seeing what Alex Smith was able to do to end his career in San Francisco and also just his career in general, I do feel pretty terrible to have said those things about him. But, that's football, right? Things could be true in one moment and, players can surprise you in years later, right? So you never know. But yeah, those were some dark, dark times for the 49ers. And Yeah. Luckily, though, the 49ers don't have to worry about any quarterback controversy this season. And that like kind of begs the question, like, are there really any questions you can ask about this team right now? Are there any holes you can poke on this team right now? Like, if you're an opposing team game planning against the 49ers, what are you looking at? Like, what would you be trying to expose? Can you even expose anything? I'm having a hard time finding something that you can expose all game, because like maybe you can target something in the first half, something you saw on tape, but I feel like what we've seen so far, if you do that by the second half, the 49ers will have pivoted, and all of a sudden that thing you were trying to expose, it's not there anymore, and before you know it, you've lost the game. Are you seeing any holes on this team right now, Rob?
It sounds arrogant to say because, like, I've been watching football long enough to know that nobody's unbeatable, right? We saw the undefeated Patriots didn't win the Super Bowl. Like, I'm not arrogant enough to think that. But at the same time, it's really hard, Steph. And I honestly think that right now we are watching the best 49ers team of my lifetime, maybe. Maybe. To me, the only team they're competing with is the 94 49ers, which was a team that was loaded with Hall of Famers. But, I mean, look at the 49ers roster right now. Christian McCaffrey is heading towards the Hall of Fame. Nick Bosa is heading towards the Hall of Fame. Fred Warner may be heading towards the Hall of Fame. Like, this team,
Yeah.
Trent Williams, definitely heading towards the Hall of Fame. Like, this team might have its own group of Hall of Famers down the road. So I think that that's what they are chasing right now. I think they're chasing ghosts. They're right up there with any 49ers team you want to put. Now, they have to win the Super Bowl. To be clear, if you're going to be considered one of the greatest 49er teams ever, you got to get a ring because we've got 5. But that's where they are right now. I think they're better than the Harbaugh teams. I think it's really, they are chasing history.
You saying that kind of reminded me of like the Warriors having that awesome season where they went, what was it, like 70 something? They beat the all-time like record in the NBA, but they didn't win the ship that year. And yeah, I mean, it counts for nothing if you don't actually win the Super Bowl. So yeah, there's one last thing the 49ers have to do. But as of this point, like, I feel like there's a lot of questions that the 49ers have answered for me in the last 2 weeks in particular, because we started the season and we were thinking, oh, that right side of the line, that's our issue right now. That's our Achilles heel for this offense. It's going to get exposed eventually. And in the first couple weeks of the season, like, you could kind of feel like that might play out at some point. These last 2 weeks, they've actually looked pretty good. They've solidified. We didn't see Micah Parsons make a peep in that game on Sunday. They kept the Arizona Cardinals at bay as well. So I'm feeling better about the right side of the offensive line. And also the other question I had going into the season was Isaiah Oliver, right? Because he was shaky at times. He's getting pulled in and out of the game. I think these last 2 weeks kind of tell me that they feel okay with him being the starter, and he looks like a starter for the team right now. So I would say those are the only 2 questions I had, and they've answered them so far.
Yeah, deciding or realizing, I should say, that Ambry Thomas wasn't it was a huge step forward for this team. I still have some questions, and it's just things that haven't come up yet or come up much at all. For example, the 49ers have trailed for 1 minute and 45 seconds this entire season, right? Wow. Game script has generally been in their favor, which does make a difference. Not saying they can't do it. Again, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there are still questions that need to be answered. One, how do the 49ers play from behind? Brock specifically. I think that's a fair question to ask because they've been kicking the tar out of everybody. Not because I have questions about it. It's just things we haven't seen. Also, coming up on Sunday, there may be some weather, some rain, some wind, things like that. And I know 49er fans don't like to hear this, but the facts are the facts. Like, Brock Purdy doesn't have a strong arm. He just doesn't. He's got some physical limitations. And in bad weather situations, those become apparent, and that you need a strong arm to drive the ball through the wind, through the rain, all that stuff. How does Brock play in the rain? Is he able to hold on to the football? All that stuff. Again, not saying I don't know, or not saying he can't do it, rather, but just saying I don't know. So these are things that we have to learn about him and about the 49ers. And I don't, the question is, like, Will we ever see that? Will we ever see the 49ers get down by multiple scores? I don't know.
They have, yeah, we haven't had to see it, Rob. And, you said that because of the game script, we haven't had to see those things out of Brock. They create the game script. They are making their own game script and they are dominating teams. That's just what it is. So at least we have that question answered about Brock, that, he can get in these early leads. The team as a whole can get in these early leads. And of course, it favors the team when they get in those situations. And they've only been down for 1 minute and 45 seconds so far this season. That's incredible. I hope we don't have to see him play from behind. But it's a fair question, I guess, because at some point you are going to play a really good team. And it is going to be a dogfight at some point, right? So I hear you. Fred Warner seems to think that this team has not hit its stride yet. Check out what he had to say about it.
I honestly don't think that we've hit our peak. I think that we just continue to keep our head down and grind and staying humble. Like, if you saw the way that we graded this tape this morning, you would see that we're taking this really serious. It's not we just scrapped this past game just because we beat them by 32 points. Like, we're trying to find ways to get better. And the little things that you do see out there.
So they watched the tape from Sunday's game where they beat a team by 32 points and they looked at things that they could still improve on. That's terrifying. Like, that's scary. And it wasn't just any team. Like, yeah, we've been making fun of the Cowboys all week, but like, the Cowboys are a good team. They are a top 10 team in both offense and defense. So what they did was nothing short of impressive. And here is Fred Warner, a captain on the team, saying, man, like, we actually graded, the film not perfect, right? There were still some things that we saw we can improve. So I know Sunday is a big test when you look at the 49ers offense going up against this Browns defense, but I still feel pretty good overall for the reasons that we mentioned, that like a lot of questions have been answered so far. And the mentality of this team is that we still have room to improve.
Well, I think you mentioned it when you talked about Fred Warner being a captain. Look at the leaders, the captains, and just the general leaders on this team, and look at their mentality, right? Fred Warner, grinder, guy that's always willing to take coaching, always willing to get better. Christian McCaffrey, not a captain, but clearly a guy, like he has told Kyle Shanahan, he drops a pass in practice and he texts him and says, hey, I'll be better. Like, that's just his mentality. Bosa is a grinder. All these guys, Ayuk, they're just so focused. And when your leaders and your captains are setting that kind of tone, yeah, there may be some other guy on the roster somewhere that's like, hey, we could roll into Cleveland and beat the brakes off them and it's going to be fine. But when those guys are setting the tone, they don't allow that to seep in. They just don't. And that's where the 49ers are right now. Brock Purdy has talked about it. This team is on a mission, and they are not letting anything derail that. They are not letting anything shift the focus week to week to go out and just destroy people. And I heard a conversation with Chris Sims and Mike Florio this week, and I thought it was really interesting, and it made me think. And their point basically is the 49ers want to leave no doubt, right? Leave no doubt that we are the best team in the league. We should have had a Super Bowl. Maybe we would have had a Super Bowl last year. They don't want to get in a situation, say, for example, like with Patrick Mahomes, where it's a one-score game. Like, the best way to defeat Patrick Mahomes is not to give him that opportunity to come back in the Super Bowl when he's down 10 in the fourth quarter. Be up by 21 points in the fourth quarter, and then you don't have to worry about it. And that seems to be the mission the 49ers are on right now.
Yeah, they're playing with a purpose. Just winning, it seems like it's not even good enough for this team. Like, I mean, they want to destroy teams, and for that reason that you mentioned, like, they are out to prove something, not just to, the entire league, but to themselves too, that, hey, like, we're trying to get to a Super Bowl here. Every single game matters on that path to getting there. We've been so close so many times. This is the way to do it. So I really admire the mentality that they have going into this season right now. I hope it doesn't fizzle out. Like, if I know anything about this team, about the veterans that they have, we mentioned a few of them, I think it'll sustain throughout the season. They are going to drop one eventually, because things like that do happen. But I'm still expecting this team to go very far in the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl the way they're looking right now. Someone said it's only been 5 games. Yeah. But
Fair.
that's how dominant they've been playing, where we can look at what they're doing and say, man, that team's probably going to the Super Bowl.
Perfect example of what you're talking about, right? So you and I were texting and I was like, hey, what are the things you want to touch on? And you mentioned, like, can you poke holes in this team? So I was like, let me just see if I could find something, right? So the first thought was third downs. How are the 49ers doing on third downs? Well, turns out they're converting a little over 48% of their third down opportunities. That's top 5 in the league. It's 5th, actually. Then I looked and I noticed the 49ers have only had 54 third downs on the entire year. That's the 3rd fewest in the league. So what that means is they are rolling so much, they don't even get to third down, let alone getting stopped by the defense. They're just converting first downs and second downs into first downs again at an incredible rate. That's how high and how smooth things are going right now for this offense.
Yeah, and you see it when you watch this offense play. Like, Brock Purdy hits a guy for a first down, and the very next play is like a first down as well. Like, they're not really doing this is not the offense that we are accustomed to seeing in years past, where it's like, okay, let's just try to get to third and short. Like, that for so long, that's kind of what
Yes.
this team tried to do. Let's just get a third and short, and if we could do that, let's try to convert then. Now it's like everything is on the table in every single play, and it's really opened things up for the entire team, really. And now this is a good pivot to the defense, because Randy Gregory, and I'll turn the audio off on this. Randy Gregory joined the team, this past Wednesday for his first practice with the team after being traded last Friday. I know Kyle Shanahan said that they're still not sure if he'll play on Sunday against the Browns. They're going to let all 3 practices leading up to the game play out before making a decision. But I expect that he'll be active, and they'll probably ease him in, put him out there in those obvious passing downs, tell him to get after the quarterback. That's not rocket science. Like, he could do that. So I'm expecting that Gregory is going to be out there on Sunday, at least for a few snaps.
I love this move so much because, first of all, it's probably a 1-year move, which I'm totally fine with. That's the world you're living in right now. It's all about this year. But I just really like it because this is the thing that you're supposed to do when you're going for the Super Bowl. Just continue to add pieces, add depth, add talent. I don't think Randy Gregory's going to have a 10-sack season. He may, who knows, but more than likely he's not. But there might be one drive, one play, one opponent where, for whatever reason, Randy Gregory can dominate and make a play, force a pressure, force a fumble, something like that changes the course of a game and maybe wins a game for the 49ers. So I love the move. I don't think there's any downside to it, right? You could use a little more help on the edge. Nick Bosa has been great, but we haven't heard from Drake Jackson since week 1, and there really hasn't been a lot of outside presence for the 49ers. So, yes, I'm on board. I'm for it, and hopefully it pays off. And if it doesn't, then you cut him after the year and you move on, and it's no problem.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. Nick Bosa is ranked 3rd in pressures so far this season. He recorded just his 2nd sack of the season on Sunday against the Cowboys. I'm expecting that this should help Nick Bosa. And like we've been saying, obviously the team didn't really, I don't want to say didn't like what they saw out of Farrell and Drake Jackson, but they didn't feel like it was moving the needle enough. And obviously that explains making this move. And, it's a pretty risk averse move as well. So, anytime you can make a move like that, you do it. But yeah, my expectation is this going to help Nick Bosa get those opportunities, because Gregory is more so known as like a speed rush guy, right? So, kind of like D Ford in that sense. They're different players, but in that sense of, having that threat of getting to the quarterback very quickly, that helps open things up for other guys on the defensive line. So that's what I'm expecting. And hey, if it doesn't happen, fine. But I think this will help, and maybe it can help with the development of Drake Jackson a little bit too. I mean, that won't hurt. They're different players as well, but maybe he can teach him a few few moves or something like that.
The 49ers are allowing 13.6 points per game, which is number 1 in the league. And they are adding pass rushers. Yes, please.
Because like that, as good as the defensive line is, they weren't getting sacks. And I know we say like sacks aren't everything, but they do help, right? You do want them. So maybe that was one of the questions or one of the holes that, the 49ers felt it could be poked through them eventually, right? Like it didn't really seem to hurt in the first, few games of the season, but they clearly felt somewhere down the line like that was going to make an impact. So wanting to get that addressed before the trade deadline, hey, that's what good football teams do. And I got to wonder too, and to go along with our conversation earlier of are there any other holes on this team? Like, will the 49ers be looking at any other players at the trade deadline? Because there are a lot of bad teams out there. I don't really know. I don't know if they need to, but like we said, good teams always kind of prepare before they truly need something.
They should. Like I just mentioned, like there's no reason not to. I don't care about the draft picks in 2024. I really don't. Like this is the year. Clearly, like look where they are. They're 5-0. They've won every game by multiple scores except for the Rams game, which Sean McVay kicked a meaningless field goal at the end of regulation on the final snap to make that a 1-score game. They are crushing people. This is the best opportunity you have had in San Francisco. So yes, if you've got to give up a couple draft picks to get a piece that you think you really need, you do it. And this regime has shown that they're willing to do it, whether it was Emmanuel Sanders or Christian McCaffrey. Like they're willing to take the swings. And if I'm the Niners, I absolutely do it. And the other thing too, with the Gregory addition, like you can spend the next 5, 6, 7 weeks getting him up and running. It's really about the playoffs, right? I mean, sure, he'll help during the regular season, but really you want him full speed once the playoffs come around. So if you can make a move for a guy now and give him a few weeks to get acclimated to everything and to get you in your best shape going into the postseason, you do it.
Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of people are mentioning Denver because they're cleaning house, at least for the players who they don't plan to keep long term. Patrick Surtain, I would assume, is one of those players they want to keep long term. So
why wouldn't they?
yeah, I don't know. If they trade Surtain, they are, dumber than I thought they were. But I really don't see that happening. So, let's look elsewhere. But I'm fine with how the corners have been playing so far. I mean, if there's like a nickel corner that's better than Isaiah Oliver, like sure, and he becomes available, do that. But, right now I think I'm okay with how this team is looking. But Rob, we mentioned that there's going to be rain in the forecast for this game on Sunday. It's going to be in Cleveland. Could be some winds too. Jake Moody hasn't had to kick a lot of field goals in, what feels like forever. I mean, I don't even remember did he even kick any against Arizona?
Nope, because I kept betting him to kick over 1.5 field goals, and I kept losing money because they keep scoring touchdowns.
I love that. That's how that's a good. Yeah. So I trust your opinion on that. That yes, or my memory is also right. He hasn't kicked a field goal in like 2 straight games. That's how the 49ers have been dominating. But if the Browns defense holds the 49ers offense to a more modest day, it could be a day where we see Jake Moody, kick a field goal. So maybe you want to throw in that bet one more time, Rob. And a little rain, a little wind didn't seem to impact Jake Moody in Pittsburgh. It didn't rain a whole lot in that game, but there was some precipitation. So I think I still feel fine about, Moody being out there in the rain, this team being out there in the rain. I still don't think this is the type of weather that's going to impact the way that the game's played. I know there's still a few days to go until Sunday, but as of right now, I'm not worried about the rain at all.
Well, if there's one thing the 49ers have shown, it's that they can win any type of game they need to win. If they need to grind it out on the ground and keep it low scoring and run down the clock, they can do that. If Brock needs to throw it 35 times a game and they need to put it in the air and then win a shootout, they can do that too. That's what's so comforting about this 49ers team. They really are a complete team. The weather doesn't worry me. I did see an interesting note about Jim Schwartz. Did you see that from Jack Hamler? I'm going to see if I can throw this up on the screen.
I got it.
Well, I've got it too. Well, there you go. I tried to take control of the show, and Steph just grabbed the wheel right back from me. So if you're not watching the stream, Kyle Shanahan has faced Jim Schwartz 9 times. He's 1-8 in those matchups, and his offense has scored over 20 points just once. As Falcons coordinator in 2016, Shanahan's offense averaged almost 34 points a game through the first 9 games. In Game 10, they faced the Eagles with Jim Schwartz, and they were held to 15 points. It was the only time that season that the Falcons didn't score at least 23. Now, to be fair, I was kind of saying the same thing going into the game against Dan Quinn. Like, hey, Dan Quinn kind of had Kyle's number. So maybe this offense is just so new and so different than the offense that the 49ers have had in the past that this won't apply. But it did give me pause a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, this might be, this could be something here.
So the one argument I have against saying that the 49ers offense is different than it was in years past is that this record goes beyond Kyle Shanahan's time with the 49ers, beyond him being a head coach. This is an all-time record that Kyle has against Jim Schwartz defenses. So I think that would be my concern, is that I think his defense matches up very, very well against the Kyle Shanahan offense. And yeah, I think there is concern. I think for me, though, I look at how good the 49ers have been elsewhere. It's not just on offense, right? So even if the offense doesn't score 30 points, they'll be fine. You know, if Jim Schwartz limits the 49ers to under 30, I'm okay with that, because I was looking at the Browns offense and how much they average, and they're averaging 19 points per game. So you really just need to get over 20 and you have a really good chance of winning. So like, yeah, I understand the big storyline of the game is this 49ers offense that's averaging 33.4 points a game, currently winning by an average of 19.8 points through, these first 5 weeks against this Browns defense that's holding opponents to under 200 yards a game and an average of just 15 points per game in the NFL. But the 49ers, to me, are the most balanced team in the NFL. And one thing I pointed out in yesterday's show is that the 49ers are the only team in the NFL with a top 10 unit in DVOA in all 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. They're great across the board. Not just on offense, not just on defense, right? So Browns are maybe the most unbalanced. They're number 1 in defensive DVOA, and they're number 26 in offensive DVOA. So if the 49ers defense looks like, the defense that we've become accustomed to through these first 5 weeks and, maybe last 5 years, I think the 49ers still have a pretty good chance in this one.
I don't know how the Browns are going to score on San Francisco. And like, whether Deshaun Watson plays or not, if Deshaun Watson plays, then he's going out there with a bum shoulder against the best defense in the league. And if he doesn't play, it's poor PJ Walker, who, by the way, I like PJ Walker. I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but my God, you're throwing him to the Wolves here. And oh, by the way, there's no Nick Chubb in this game either. So Cleveland, I mean, really the only weapon you have to worry about with the Browns is Amari Cooper. That's pretty much it. And, even we've seen in the past great wide receivers go off against the 49ers and it not matter in the final score at all. Cooper Kupp owns the 49ers. He always gets over 100 yards against the 49ers. We saw Puka Nacua had a great game against San Francisco earlier this year. Niners still blew him out. It doesn't matter. The Niners know how to deal with that. And so, yeah, I just don't see how the Browns are going to score unless the 49ers turn it over, which is something that they have not been doing during this 15-game winning streak.
Well, another interesting thing that I saw is that as good as the Browns defense has been, I think they only have, so here, this is a tweet from David Lombardi. I'm just going to read it off. They are last in the league in interceptions. They only have 1 interception, and they're only +3 in takeaways.
Mm-hmm.
As good as they've been, like, they're not really getting the ball from their opponents as much as you say the 49ers defense is right now, right? So again, like that could be the difference in this game. And as we've seen, Brock Purdy has done a pretty good job of taking care of the football. So I would expect that to continue in this game. And so if that's their only chance of like making this game close, I mean, I don't know.
It's rough. I did a guest spot on a Browns podcast earlier this week, and like they know. Like they know. I mean, that's the vibe. You know, one way to judge your team is the reaction of others, right? Reaction of people in your division or people on your schedule. And when other teams or other people that cover other teams are coming to you like, yeah, we're cooked. Like there's no shot. Like that just tells you it's not just you looking through team colored glasses and being, blinded by everything. Other teams are objectively looking at the 49ers and like, damn, they're really, really good.
Yeah. And one last thing that I'll point out. I mean, I know that PJ Walker, he's been reported to start, of course, if Deshaun Watson is unable to go. So I would assume that holds and we'll see PJ Walker out there. Steve Wilkes has some experience with PJ Walker, doesn't he? I mean, he started a few games for the Carolina Panthers last season, and he finished 3 of 3, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 761 yards, 6.9 yards per attempt. Yeah, like not terrible, but
yeah, he's fine.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, if anyone knows his flaws and things like that, maybe it's Steve Wilkes, right? So he also has a bit of an advantage in this matchup. I feel good about it. I think the only thing and I don't want to say worries, like I'm not worried at all about any game. I think the only thing that could, be an equalizer is the weather potentially if it becomes worse than, what we think it is right now. The early start, the 49ers haven't had an early start in, a few weeks. It's hard to adjust to that. And, the Browns actually do play better at home. So take that for what it's worth. And yeah, I mean, I think those are the only things. The fact that the 49ers are away, weather could make an impact. It's going to be an early game. That's about it. But you know what? How I feel about the 49ers right now is that even if they don't play their best game, even if they don't play as good as they have these last 5 weeks, they could still beat a team. That's how good they've been. So not too worried about
Especially
it.
a team like the Browns. I mean, let's be honest. The Browns are scaring nobody right now. But that's been the impressive thing with the Niners is like they don't have those letdowns. Going back to what we were talking about, they know the mission. They know the job. They want that number 1 seed. Kyle Juszczyk just did an interview with Richard Sherman on his podcast where he talks about like they want it. They have their sights set on it. They recognize the importance of it. I think they want the playoff games at home. And obviously, I think they really want that first round bye because the Niners bye is coming up in week 9, I believe, which is a good week to have the bye.
Yeah.
But there's also a ton of games after that. What, 1, 2, 3, like 10 games after that. And you would like a week off. And so they have their target set and they're not going to relent or give up until they get it. And I love it.
And that's what I'm saying, right? Like they are so focused on just that one goal, and they understand that it's a marathon to get there, and every game counts. So Rob, score prediction for you in this matchup.
Well, here's the thing. Until they lose and until they don't score 30, I'm going to pick them to do both. I'm going to pick them to win, and I'm going to pick them to score 30 every week because they keep
I like that.
doing it. They have proven to me now that this is who they are. So I'm going to have to say 49ers win. And I think they put up, let's call it 30 points, 30 to 10, I'll say.
Perfect 30 again?
Yeah, we'll go perfect 30.
Okay.
Maybe Jake Moody could kick a field goal, help me win back some of my money that I've lost. But I'll go 30 to 10. They've given me no reason to doubt them at this point.
Yeah. And put that bet in again, and you got to do like double the amount. So that's how betting works, right? You lose 2 and then you got to put in double amount, you double down. Look, you said earlier you don't see how the Browns score in this game, and yet you gave them 10. So I'm surprised by that. But I'm going to say 3 for the Browns. I'll be nice. I'll give them a field goal, and maybe they get it from like 50 yards. That's still good by the defense. And yesterday I did a show, and I said 18-3, and then I thought about it, and I was like, no, that's like way too low. But I think I was just respecting the. Yeah, your face is. I was expecting like the Browns defense to have like a good day and limit the 49ers. But to your point, even if they limit the 49ers, like I think I don't know if I think they could score 30, but they should be able to score more than 18 points, right? So I'm gonna
18.
yeah, I know. That was very dumb of me. Like, I don't know why I did that. Even so, the Ravens, they played the Ravens last week, right? And I think the Ravens had like 27. So I'm gonna go 23 to 3 at 49ers.
The Ravens had that many points, and their wide receivers dropped 7 passes in that game. So
It's also Lamar. I mean, he was doing a lot with his legs. I was catching glimpses of that game on Red Zone. So for what it's worth,
I think it's going to be another happy recap. I'm here for it, and I don't care. It never gets boring to me. It never gets old. There's nothing to be sad about. Like, I don't miss those cardiac games at all.
Yeah.
At all. No.
I know. My butt clenching and whatnot. I'm biting my nails. As you can see, my nails are still intact this season. We are doing so well. So, yeah, someone yesterday in the show said, like, the 49ers are, like, so good. They're boring in the best way.
Yes.
I'm not bored, but I understood what they meant. And if another team or another fan of another team is watching a 49ers game, they probably turn it off like sooner than we would, because they're like, oh, this is a blowout, man. This
26 million people watched on Sunday Night Football on average, and it peaked at 30 million in the second quarter.
Nice.
So people be watching, and I wouldn't be shocked.
People also like to watch the Cowboys lose, I think. And they know the 49ers have their number.
They definitely do. And by the way, Micah Parsons,
stop talking, man. Stop talking.
Stop, man.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah, like, when we see you again, third time, now I'm really mad. Give me a break with that. You better hope you don't see the 49ers again, because guess what, Micah?
They're not going to. That's the thing, right? That's what they're talking about, and they might not even see the 49ers again this season, and they might not make the playoffs. They have a pretty tough schedule to end the season.
Nobody in the Dallas locker room thinks the Cowboys can beat the 49ers. Nobody. You watch the reactions during the game. Watch their faces. They were a broken and beaten team, and that ain't going to change anytime soon.
God, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, if you guys loved this video, make sure you send a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. And if you're watching on my channel, make sure you do the same on Rob's channel. That is linked in the description of this video. Gonna have a great show tomorrow. Gonna be doing a deep dive of this 49ers Browns preview. So make sure you tune into that 5:30 Pacific on the 49 Carats podcast. Rob, any parting words?
Just soak it in. Just enjoy it. And appreciate what we have right now, because it doesn't always happen like this, and it is now, and it's glorious.
We have nothing to argue about. Like, isn't that great?
No.
Like, I don't think 49, like, truly, there's times where, like, the team is really good and we're like, they have nothing to argue about, but then, like, they still do argue. I haven't seen an argument about the 49ers in, I don't even remember how long. Since, like, the offseason, probably. That's how great this team is playing right now. Yes, savor the moment. We are enjoying it so much. For me, from Rob, have a good rest of your Thursday, folks. Peace.